You know what, girls? If I weren't married, I'd totally go for Logan Baird. Have you seen the way he fills out those suits? I laughed, taking another sip of wine as my sister Darla and her friends giggled around our kitchen table. Martin's boss is absolutely gorgeous, and he's got that whole mysterious, powerful thing going on. What started as harmless girl talk would destroy everything I thought I knew about my quiet husband. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Corisande Vai, 34 years old, and I work in marketing for a mid-sized company downtown. My husband Martin is 36, an accountant at Baird & Associates, where Logan Baird runs the show as senior partner. We've been married for 10 years, have an 8-year-old daughter Emma, and honestly, our marriage had become pretty routine. That Friday evening, I was hosting my monthly wine night with Darla and a few other women. Martin was in his home office, probably working on spreadsheets or whatever accountants do on Friday nights. Emma was at a sleepover. It was just us girls, and the wine was flowing freely. "Come on, Corey," Darla nudged me, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Tell us more about this Logan guy. You've mentioned him before." "Well," I said, feeling bold from the wine. "He's about 39, never been married, drives this incredible BMW. And when he walks into a room, everyone notices. Even the married women at Martin's office parties can't help but stare." "Sounds like someone has a little crush," teased Janet, one of Darla's friends. "It's not a crush," I protested, though I could feel my cheeks warming. "I'm just saying, objectively speaking, the man is attractive, and successful, and charming. Everything a woman could want, really. Unlike present company." Darla gestured toward Martin's closed office door, and the women burst into laughter. "Don't be mean," I said, but I was laughing too. "Martin's a good man. He's just predictable, safe. Sometimes a girl wants to feel a little excitement, you know." What I didn't know was that Martin had come out to get a glass of water and had heard every word. He stood frozen in the hallway, listening to his wife of 10 years describe his boss as everything a woman could want, while dismissing him as merely safe and predictable. The next Monday at work, I was still riding the high from our girls' night. I felt lighter somehow, more confident. When I ran into Logan at the coffee shop near our building, I found myself being more flirtatious than usual. "Corisande, right? Martin's wife?" Logan smiled, and I felt my heart skip a beat. "How are you doing?" "I'm doing great," I said, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Just grabbing my morning fuel. You know how it is in marketing. We run on caffeine and creativity." "I can imagine," he said, his eyes lingering on mine just a moment longer than necessary. "Martin's lucky to have someone so vibrant at home. He always seems so serious at work." "Oh, that's just Martin," I laughed. "He's always been the quiet type. Some of us are more expressive." Logan's smile widened. "I can see that. Well, I should get going. Maybe I'll see you at the next office function." "I'd like that," I said, and I meant it. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You'd make work a lot more interesting. Logan." I stared at the message, my heart racing. How had he gotten my number? Then I remembered the company directory. All employee spouses were listed for emergency contacts. Instead of feeling concerned about the boundary-crossing nature of the text, I felt thrilled. When was the last time Martin had made me feel this excited about anything? I quickly saved Logan's number and typed back, "Life's too short to be boring." His response came within minutes. Couldn't agree more. That evening, Martin was quieter than usual during dinner. Emma chatted about her school day, while I found myself checking my phone repeatedly, hoping for another message from Logan. "Everything okay?" I asked Martin as we cleaned up the dishes. "Fine," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Just tired." "You're always tired lately," I said, feeling a flash of irritation. "Maybe you should get out more." Have some fun for once. Martin looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I couldn't quite identify. Maybe I should, he said quietly. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed again. Logan. Can't stop thinking about our conversation today. Would love to continue it sometime. I glanced at Martin, who was already in bed reading one of his boring finance magazines. He barely looked up when I walked into the room. Probably, I typed back to Logan. I'd enjoy that. Tomorrow, lunch. I hesitated for just a moment. This was definitely crossing a line, but Martin hadn't even complimented me in months, hadn't seemed to notice when I got my hair done or bought new clothes. What harm could lunch do? Sounds perfect. The next day, I spent extra time getting ready for work. I chose my favorite dress, the blue one that Martin used to say brought out my eyes, back when he noticed things like that. I did my makeup more carefully than usual, and even wore the perfume I saved for special occasions. At the marketing office, my coworker Beth noticed immediately. You look amazing today, Corey. Special occasion? Just felt like putting in a little effort, I said, but I was smiling. Good for you. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves we're still attractive women, not just wives and mothers. Exactly, I thought. That's exactly what this was about. Logan had suggested a small bistro about 10 minutes from our office building. When I arrived, he was already there, looking impossibly handsome in a charcoal grey suit. He stood when he saw me, and I felt that same flutter in my stomach. You look beautiful, he said, pulling out my chair. When was the last time Martin had called me beautiful? I couldn't remember. Thank you, I said, settling into my seat. This is a lovely place. I thought you'd like it. It's quiet, intimate, good for conversation. Over lunch, Logan was everything Martin wasn't. Attentive, charming, interested in what I had to say. He asked about my work, my dreams, my thoughts on everything from movies to politics. He made me feel intelligent and desirable in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Martin doesn't know how lucky he is, Logan said as we finished our meal. If you were my wife, I'd make sure you knew how special you are every single day. My cheeks burned with pleasure. You're very sweet to say that. I'm not being sweet, I'm being honest. He reached across the table and touched my hand briefly. You deserve better than being taken for granted. That afternoon, I found it impossible to concentrate on work. My mind kept drifting back to lunch, to the way Logan had looked at me, the way he'd made me feel. When my phone buzzed with a text from him, "Thank you for a wonderful lunch, you made my day." I felt like I was floating. I was so distracted that I almost forgot to pick up Emma from school. When I finally got home, Martin was already there, which was unusual. He was typically at the office until at least 6. You're home early, I said, trying to sound casual as I set my purse down. Slow day, he said, but there was something in his tone that made me look at him more closely. How was your day? Fine, busy. You know how it is. Do I? He asked, and there was definitely something different about his voice. How was lunch? My heart stopped. Lunch? You were seen at Chez Laurent today, with my boss. I felt my face flush, but I forced myself to stay calm. Oh, that. Logan wanted to discuss some marketing ideas for the firm. It was a business lunch. A business lunch, Martin repeated slowly. At a romantic bistro, just the two of you. It wasn't romantic, I said, my voice rising slightly. God, Martin, you're being paranoid. It was a professional meeting. I'm allowed to have those, aren't I? Of course you are, he said quietly. I just wish you'd mentioned it. I don't have to report every detail of my day to you, I snapped. You never tell me about your business lunches. I don't have business lunches with your female boss. Because I don't have a female boss. And even if I did, I'd trust you to behave appropriately. Martin stared at me for a long moment. Right, he said finally. Appropriately. That evening, Martin's mother Helen called. She and I had never been particularly close, She'd always thought her precious son could have done better than me, but we maintained a polite relationship for Martin's sake. "Hello, Corisande," she said when I answered. "Is Martin available?" "He's helping Emma with her homework. Can I take a message?" "Actually, I wanted to talk to you." Her tone was cooler than usual. "I heard some concerning things today." My stomach dropped. "What kind of things?" "About you and Martin's boss. People are talking, Corisande. This kind of gossip can be very damaging to Martin's career." "There's nothing to gossip about," I said firmly. "We had one business lunch." "Was it business?" she asked pointedly. "Because that's not what I heard." "I don't know what you heard, but I heard that you've been making comments about Logan Baird, inappropriate comments, and now you're having intimate lunches with him." "It wasn't intimate." "Corisande," Helen's voice was sharp now, "I've been married for 35 years. I know the difference between a business meeting and something else. Think about your family. Think about Emma." After she hung up, I was furious. How dare she lecture me? How dare any of them judge me for having one innocent lunch with an attractive man? But as the evening wore on, I found myself watching Martin more carefully. He was helping Emma with her math homework, patient and kind as always. He made her favorite snack without being asked. He read her a bedtime story, doing all the different voices that made her giggle. He was a good father, a good husband, really. Just boring. My phone buzzed. "Logan, been thinking about you all afternoon. When can I see you again?" I looked at Martin, who was now loading the dishwasher without complaint, the way he did every night. "Soon," I typed back. "I'd like that very much." The firm's annual holiday party was always held at the Riverside Country Club, and it was the social event of the year for Martin's company. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks, especially since I knew Logan would be there. I bought a new dress for the occasion, a sleek black number that hugged my curves in all the right places. When I came out of the bedroom, Martin actually looked up from his phone. "You look nice," he said. "Nice. Not beautiful, not stunning. Nice." "Thank you," I said coolly. The party was already in full swing when we arrived. The country club was decorated with twinkling lights and elegant centerpieces, and the bar was crowded with Martin's colleagues and their spouses. I spotted Logan immediately. He was holding court near the bar, looking devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo. "I'm going to get a drink," I told Martin, who was already being pulled into a conversation about tax law with some of his co-workers. "Get me a beer," he called after me, but I pretended not to hear. Logan saw me approaching and excused himself from his conversation. "Corisande," he said, his eyes sweeping over me appreciatively. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," I said, feeling that familiar flutter. "You clean up pretty well yourself." "Would you like to dance?" he asked, gesturing toward the small dance floor, where a few couples were swaying to the jazz quartet. I glanced back at Martin, who was still deep in conversation and hadn't even noticed I'd left his side. "I'd love to." Logan's hand on my waist felt electric as he led me onto the dance floor. He was an excellent dancer, confident and smooth, and I found myself melting into his arms. "You're wasted on him, you know," Logan murmured in my ear as we swayed to the music. "Don't," I said, but I didn't pull away. "I'm serious. A woman like you should be cherished, adored. You should be with someone who appreciates what he has." "Logan, I can't stop thinking about you, Corisande. These past few weeks, getting to know you, you're incredible." My heart was pounding. People will see. Let them see. Maybe it's time people knew how I feel about you. When the song ended, he didn't immediately let go of me. Instead, he kept one hand on my waist as he led me back toward the bar. Several people were watching us now, including some of the other wives, who were whispering behind their hands. "Logan," a woman in a red dress approached us. "You must introduce me to your lovely companion." "This is Corisande Vi," Logan said smoothly. "Martin's wife." The woman's eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh, how Nice to meet you. As the evening went on, Logan stayed close to my side. He brought me drinks, introduced me to people as if I were his date rather than another employee's wife, and generally treated me like the most important person in the room. I was having the time of my life. Martin, meanwhile, seemed to fade into the background. Every time I glanced his way, he was standing alone or making awkward small talk with people who barely seemed to notice him. At one point, I saw him watching Logan and me from across the room, his face unreadable. "Your husband doesn't look happy," Logan observed, following my gaze. "Martin never looks happy at these things," I said. "He's not very social." "His loss is my gain," Logan said, and touched my arm in a way that made me shiver. Near the end of the evening, Logan asked me to dance again. This time, he held me even closer, his hand moving lower on my back. I knew people were staring, knew this was inappropriate, but I didn't care. I felt alive for the first time in years. "I should go," I finally said when the song ended. "Martin will be looking for me." "Will you call me tomorrow?" Logan asked, his eyes intense. "Yes," I said without hesitation. When I found Martin, he was putting on his coat by the coat check. His face was stone cold. "Ready to go?" he asked without looking at me. The ride home was silent. Emma was spending the night at Helen's house, so it was just the two of us in the car. The tension was so thick I could barely breathe. "Did you have a good time?" I finally asked as we pulled into our driveway. Martin turned off the engine and sat for a moment without moving. "Did you?" he asked quietly. "It was fine." "Fine." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You spent the entire evening with my boss, dancing with him, hanging on his every word, letting him touch you like you were his wife instead of mine." "That's ridiculous," I said, but my cheeks were burning. "We were just talking, dancing. It's called being social, Martin. You should try it sometime." "Being social," he repeated. "Is that what you call it?" "What are you implying?" Martin finally looked at me then, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach clench. "I'm not implying anything, Corisanda. I'm stating facts. You humiliated me tonight, in front of my colleagues, my boss, everyone I work with. I did no such thing. You did, and you know it." He got out of the car and walked toward the house, leaving me sitting alone in the passenger seat. That night, Martin slept in the guest room. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the evening in my mind. Had I really been that obvious? Had I really humiliated him? But then I remembered how Logan had made me feel. Beautiful, desirable, important. When was the last time Martin had made me feel any of those things? My phone buzzed with a text. "Logan, you were the most beautiful woman in the room tonight. I couldn't take my eyes off you." I smiled in the darkness and typed back, "You made me feel special." "You are special. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand, dreaming of dancing in Logan's arms. Over the next few weeks, my relationship with Logan intensified, while my marriage continued to deteriorate. We texted constantly, met for lunch twice more, and even had coffee one evening when I told Martin I was working late. Martin, meanwhile, had become increasingly distant. He was polite but cold, going through the motions of our daily routine without any real engagement. He helped Emma with homework, handled his share of household chores, and made conversation at dinner. But there was an invisible wall between us that seemed to grow higher every day. "Daddy seems sad," Emma said to me one Saturday morning, while Martin was outside mowing the lawn. "He's just tired from work, sweetheart," I said, though her observation made my chest tighten with guilt. "Is he mad at me?" "Of course not, baby. Daddy loves you very much." "Then why doesn't he smile anymore?" I didn't have an answer for that. That afternoon, while Martin was at the hardware store and Emma was playing at a friend's house, I decided to do some cleaning. I was vacuuming the bedroom when I noticed Martin's nightstand drawer was slightly open. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pulled it open further. Inside was a manila folder I'd never seen before. My hands trembling slightly, I opened it. The first page was a printed list in Martin's neat handwriting. December 3rd, lunch at Chez Laurent, 12:30, 2:15. December 8th, coffee at Starbucks on 5th Street, 6:30. December 15th, holiday party, excessive contact, and inappropriate behavior. December 18th, lunch at Riverside Cafe, 1:03, Corisat. My blood ran cold. He'd been documenting everything. I flipped through the rest of the folder and found printed screenshots of text messages, credit card statements with charges highlighted, and even what looked like phone records. How had he gotten access to my text messages? My phone was password protected, unless he'd seen me enter the code. And the credit card statements were joint accounts, so of course he could access those. But the phone records, those would have required calling our service provider, which meant he'd been planning this for a while. I heard the garage door opening and quickly shoved everything back into the drawer, but my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the folder. Martin came upstairs a few minutes later, carrying a bag from the hardware store. "Find everything you need for cleaning?" he asked mildly. "Yes," I managed to say. "All good." He looked at me for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Good," he said, and went to put his purchases away. That evening, I could barely concentrate on anything. Every time I looked at Martin, I wondered what else he knew, what else he'd documented. When my phone buzzed with a text from Logan, I jumped so violently that Emma noticed. "You okay, Mom?" "Fine, sweetie, just startled." But Martin was watching me now, and I saw him glance at my phone. Logan's text read, "Missing you today. When can we have some real time together?" I knew I should delete it immediately, but something rebellious in me resisted. Why should I have to hide? Martin was the one being paranoid and controlling, not me. "Soon," I typed back. "I want that too." I looked up to find Martin still watching me. "Work?" he asked. "Yes," I lied smoothly. "A client with some last-minute changes." "On a Saturday evening?" "You know how clients can be." He nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm learning a lot about how people can be." The next few days passed in a strange, tense routine. Martin continued to be polite but distant, going to work, coming home, helping with Emma, but barely speaking to me beyond what was necessary. I, meanwhile, was becoming more reckless. Logan and I started talking on the phone when Martin was at work, long conversations about everything and nothing. He made me laugh, made me feel interesting and attractive. He listened to me complain about Martin's emotional distance, his boring predictability, his lack of passion. "You deserve so much more," Logan would say. "You're an incredible woman, Corisande, vibrant and beautiful and full of life. You shouldn't have to settle for someone who doesn't appreciate you." "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd met you first," I admitted during one of our calls. "It's not too late," he said quietly. "People make changes in their lives all the time. They choose happiness over security. I have Emma to think about." "Of course, but Emma deserves a mother who's fulfilled and happy, don't you think? Instead of one who's slowly dying inside from neglect." His words resonated with me. Was that what was happening? Was I slowly dying inside? That Friday, Logan suggested we meet for dinner instead of lunch. "Somewhere nice," he said. "You deserve to be taken somewhere special." I knew it was a line I shouldn't cross. Lunch was one thing. It could be explained as business. But dinner was clearly a date. "I'd love that," I heard myself saying. "The Riverside Inn has a beautiful restaurant. Very romantic." "That sounds perfect." I told Martin I was having dinner with Darla to celebrate her promotion at work. He just nodded and said he'd handle Emma's bedtime routine. The Riverside Inn was indeed romantic. Dim lighting, candles on every table, soft jazz playing in the background. Logan had reserved a corner table with a view of the river, and he stood to greet me with a kiss on the cheek that lingered just a moment too long. "You look breathtaking," he said, pulling out my chair. I was wearing a red dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion, and I'd spent 2 hours getting ready. Thank you. This place is beautiful. Not as beautiful as you. Over dinner, the conversation became more intimate than ever before. Logan told me about his childhood, his dreams, his failed relationships. I found myself opening up about my marriage, my disappointments, my fears that I was wasting my life. "You're not wasting anything," Logan said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "You're just delayed. Sometimes we have to make difficult choices to find our true happiness." When he walked me to my car after dinner, he didn't just kiss my cheek. This time, he cupped my face in his hands and kissed me properly, deeply, passionately. I kissed him back. "I'm falling in love with you," he whispered against my lips. "Logan, I know it's complicated, but I can't help how I feel." I drove home in a daze, my lips still tingling from his kiss. When I got home, Martin was reading in bed as usual. "How was dinner with Darla?" he asked without looking up from his book. "Fine," I said, turning away so he couldn't see my face. "She's excited about the promotion." "Good for her," Martin said quietly. "I'm happy when people get what they deserve." The next morning, Martin was up early making breakfast. Pancakes, Emma's favorite. He seemed almost cheerful, which struck me as odd, given how tense things had been between us lately. "What's the occasion?" I asked, pouring myself coffee. "Can't a father make his daughter pancakes without an occasion?" he said lightly. Emma bounced into the kitchen, still in her pajamas. "Daddy, you made Mickey Mouse pancakes." "I sure did, sweetheart. Come eat them while they're hot." I watched Martin with Emma over breakfast, noting how patient and attentive he was with her, how he listened to her chatter about school and friends with genuine interest. A pang of something, guilt, regret, twisted in my stomach. My phone buzzed with a text from Logan. "Can't stop thinking about last night. You're amazing." I quickly deleted the message, but when I looked up, Martin was watching me. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine, just work stuff." He nodded and went back to cutting Emma's pancakes, but I caught him glancing at me several more times during breakfast. Later that morning, after Martin had taken Emma to her soccer game, I called Darla. "I need to talk to someone," I said. "Can you come over?" Darla arrived within the hour, armed with coffee and pastries from our favorite bakery. "You sounded stressed on the phone. What's going on?" I told her everything, about Logan, about the dinners and texts and the kiss, about Martin's growing distance, and the folder I'd found in his nightstand. "Holy shit, Corey," Darla said when I finished. "You're having an affair." "It's not an affair," I protested. We haven't slept together." "Yet," Darla said pointedly. "But you're headed there, right?" I didn't answer, which was answer enough. "And Martin knows?" "He suspects. He's been documenting everything, Darla, like he's building a case against me." "Maybe he is," she said seriously. "Corey, you need to be careful here. If Martin decides to divorce you, and he has evidence of infidelity—" "He won't divorce me," I said quickly. "Martin doesn't have it in him. He's too passive, too scared of change." "Are you sure about that? Because from what you're telling me, he sounds like he's planning something." "Like what?" "Like protecting himself. And Emma." The thought of losing Emma, even partially, made my chest tight with panic. "He wouldn't try to take her away from me." "Wouldn't he, if he could prove you were an unfit mother?" "I'm not an unfit mother. Having dinner with someone doesn't make me unfit." "No, but lying about it does. Sneaking around does. Courts don't like dishonesty, Corey." After Darla left, I spent the afternoon in a state of anxiety. When Martin and Emma returned from soccer, I watched Martin carefully, looking for signs of whatever he might be planning. But he seemed perfectly normal. Tired from the soccer game, pleased that Emma's team had won, interested in what I'd done with my morning. "Darla came over," I said. "We had coffee and caught up." "That's nice," Martin said. "How's she doing with the new promotion?" For a moment I was confused. Then I remembered. I'd told him I'd had dinner with Darla the night before, to celebrate her promotion. The lie I'd told to cover my dinner with Logan. Good, I said quickly. Really good. She's excited about the new responsibilities. Martin nodded. I'm sure she is. New opportunities can be life-changing. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Martin surprised me by suggesting we watch a movie together. We hadn't done that in months. What did you have in mind? I asked. Your choice, he said, settling onto the couch with a bowl of popcorn. I chose a romantic comedy, hoping it might help ease the tension between us. But as we watched, I found myself thinking about Logan instead of focusing on the movie. When the main characters shared their first kiss, I thought about Logan's lips on mine. Good movie, Martin said when it ended. Yeah, it was sweet. Sometimes people get second chances, he said, looking at me meaningfully. Sometimes they can start over and do things right. Martin, I'm just saying it's never too late to make better choices, to be honest about what you want. I stared at him, wondering if this was some kind of opening, a chance to confess everything and try to work things out. But then my phone buzzed with another text from Logan, and the moment passed. I should get to bed, I said. Early morning tomorrow. Of course, Martin said quietly. Sleep well, Corisanda. The next few days passed in a blur of secret texts and phone calls with Logan, punctuated by increasingly awkward interactions with Martin. He continued to be polite and helpful around the house, but there was a quality to his behavior that I couldn't quite identify. He seemed resigned, maybe, or determined. On Wednesday, I came home from work to find Martin in his office, surrounded by papers and files. The door was open, which was unusual. He typically kept it closed when he was working. Busy day, I asked, pausing in the doorway. You could say that, he replied without looking up, just getting some things organized. Anything I can help with? No, I think I have everything I need. That evening, Logan called while Martin was helping Emma with her bath. I've been thinking, Logan said, about us, about where this is heading. What do you mean? I mean, I'm tired of sneaking around. I want to be with you properly, openly. My heart started racing. Logan, I know it's complicated, but people get divorced all the time. They find the courage to leave situations that aren't working and pursue real happiness. I can't just leave Martin. There's Emma to consider, and Emma would adjust. Kids are resilient, and she deserves to see her mother truly happy, don't you think? I need time to think. Of course, but don't think too long, Corisande. Life is short, and we're not getting any younger. After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone, my mind racing. Was he right? Should I be brave enough to leave my safe, boring marriage for a chance at real passion and excitement? When Martin came downstairs after putting Emma to bed, he found me still sitting in the kitchen, lost in thought. Everything okay? He asked. Fine, I said automatically. Just thinking about work stuff. Ah, he said, work stuff. You've been doing a lot of that lately. It's a busy time of year. I'm sure it is. He poured himself a glass of water and leaned against the counter, studying me. Corisande, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, are you happy with your life, with our marriage, with me? I stared at him, seeing something in his eyes that looked almost like hope. This was it. Another chance to be honest, to tell him the truth about everything. I started, but then my phone rang. Logan's name appeared on the screen. Sorry, I said to Martin. I need to take this. I saw something die in Martin's eyes as I answered the phone. Hi, I said, walking into the living room. Hi, beautiful. I was just thinking about you. Behind me, I heard Martin quietly leave the kitchen. The next morning, Martin was gone before I woke up. His side of the bed was cold, and when I went downstairs, there was no sign he'd had breakfast or coffee. Even more unusual, he'd left for work without saying goodbye to Emma. Where's Daddy? Emma asked as I got her ready for school. He had to leave early for work, I said, though I felt uneasy about his absence. He didn't give me my morning hug, she said sadly. He'll give you extra hugs tonight, I promised, though something in my gut told me that might not be true. I tried calling Martin around lunchtime, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I tried again at 3 o'clock, then at 5. Nothing. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, well past his usual arrival time, I was starting to worry. Had something happened to him? Had there been an accident? I was just reaching for my phone to call the hospital when I heard a car in the driveway. But when I looked out the window, it wasn't Martin's sedan. It was a white sedan with official plates. 2 people got out, a woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase, and a man who looked like he might be a police officer, though he wasn't in uniform. My heart started pounding as they walked up to the front door. The doorbell rang. "Mom," Emma called from the living room. "Someone's at the door." "I'll get it, sweetie," I said, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. I opened the door to find the woman holding an official-looking envelope. "Corisande Vi?" she asked. "Yes?" "I'm Sarah Mitchell from Davidson and Associates Legal Services. This is Officer Rodriguez. We have some documents for you." She held out the envelope. With trembling hands, I took it. "What is this?" I asked, though part of me already knew. "Divorce papers, ma'am, and a temporary custody order. You're required to appear in court next Friday at 9 a.m. The world seemed to tilt around me. "Divorce papers?" "Yes, ma'am. Filed this morning by your husband, Martin Vi. There's also a restraining order preventing you from contacting Logan Baird." "A restraining order?" My voice came out as a squeak. "Yes, ma'am. Any violation of that order will result in immediate arrest." Officer Rodriguez stepped forward. "Ma'am, we also need to inform you that Mr. Vi has documented evidence of adultery and emotional abandonment. He's seeking full custody of your daughter, with supervised visitation rights for you." "Full custody?" The envelope fell from my hands, papers scattering across the front porch. "He can't. Emma is my daughter." "Ma'am, I suggest you contact an attorney immediately," Sarah Mitchell said, not unkindly. "You have the right to contest these proceedings, but you'll need legal representation." "Mom?" Emma appeared behind me in the doorway. "What's happening? Who are these people?" I turned to look at my daughter, my beautiful, innocent daughter who had no idea her world was about to be torn apart. "Go back inside, baby. Mommy needs to handle some grown-up stuff." "But Mom..." "Please, Emma, go watch TV. I'll be right there." After Emma reluctantly went back inside, I knelt to gather the scattered papers. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold them. "There's one more thing," Officer Rodriguez said gently. "Mr. Vi has moved out of the residence. He's staying elsewhere for now, but he'll be back tomorrow at noon to collect his belongings and to spend time with Emma." "Where is he staying?" I asked desperately. "I can't release that information, ma'am." After they left, I sat on my front porch holding the papers, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How had Martin managed to do all of this so quickly? How had he gotten a restraining order against Logan? How had he documented evidence of adultery when Logan and I had never even slept together? With shaking fingers, I opened the envelope and began reading the documents. The divorce petition was thorough and devastating. Martin had listed irreconcilable differences and adultery as grounds for divorce. Attached were pages and pages of evidence, printed text messages between Logan and me, credit card statements showing charges for restaurants and hotels, phone records showing the frequency and duration of our calls, and even photographs, apparently taken by a private investigator, of Logan and me kissing outside the Riverside Inn. There were also sworn statements from witnesses who had observed our behavior at the holiday party, testimony from co-workers who had seen us together at various restaurants, and even a statement from someone at Logan's office who had overheard us making plans to meet. But the most devastating part was the section about Emma. Martin was seeking full physical custody, claiming that I had emotionally abandoned our daughter in favor of pursuing an extramarital affair. He had documented instances where I had been late picking Emma up from school, times when I had been distracted or absent during family activities, and occasions when I had lied to both him and Emma about my whereabouts. At the bottom of the custody petition was a handwritten note. Emma deserves better than a mother who lies to her and puts her own selfish desires above her daughter's well-being. I read those words over and over, each time feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. My phone rang. Logan. For a moment, I considered answering, but then I remembered the restraining order. If I talked to him now, I could be arrested. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, I listened to his message. Corey, something weird is happening. I just got served with some kind of legal papers at my office. There are people here asking questions about us. Call me back as soon as you get this. I wanted to call him back, wanted to warn him about the restraining order, wanted to figure out together how we were going to handle this mess. But I couldn't risk it. Not with Emma inside the house. Not with the possibility of being arrested and losing her completely. Instead, I called Darla. He did it, I said as soon as she answered. Martin actually did it. He filed for divorce. Oh, shit, Corey, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. He's trying to take Emma away from me, Darla. He has pictures and text messages and witness statements. How did he get all of this? He hired a private investigator, probably, and maybe a good lawyer. Corey, this is serious. You need to get your own attorney immediately. I don't understand how this happened so fast. Yesterday he was making pancakes and asking if I was happy. How did he go from that to serving me divorce papers? Maybe he was giving you one last chance to come clean, Darla said quietly. And when you didn't take it, the truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. Last night, when Martin had asked if I was happy, when he'd looked at me with something that might have been hope, that had been my chance to tell the truth, to confess everything, to try to work things out. Instead, I'd answered Logan's phone call. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Emma, about the possibility of losing her, about how I was going to explain to her that Daddy wasn't coming home. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Martin's face when I'd chosen to answer Logan's call instead of having an honest conversation with my husband. The next morning, Emma asked again where Daddy was. He had to stay somewhere else last night, I said carefully, but he's coming to see you this afternoon. Is he mad at me? She asked, her lower lip trembling. Oh, baby, no. Daddy is not mad at you. Daddy loves you more than anything in the world. Then why isn't he here? I knelt down so I was at her eye level. Sometimes grown-ups have problems they need to work out, but that has nothing to do with you, okay? Both Mommy and Daddy love you very, very much. Are you and Daddy getting divorced? She asked quietly. The question hit me like a sledgehammer. Why would you ask that? Because Jenny's parents got divorced, and first her daddy moved out, and then people came to her house with papers, and then she had to live with her daddy on weekends and her mommy during the week. I stared at my 8-year-old daughter, realizing that she understood far more than I'd given her credit for. I don't know what's going to happen, sweetheart, I said honestly, but I promise you that no matter what, both Mommy and Daddy will always love you and take care of you. At noon exactly, Martin's car pulled into the driveway. Emma ran to the window. Daddy's here. But when Martin came to the door, he wasn't alone. Helen, his mother, was with him. Hello, Corisande, Martin said formally when I opened the door. Martin. I looked at Helen, who was glaring at me with undisguised contempt. Helen. I'm here to collect some of my belongings, Martin said, and to spend time with Emma. Of course. I stepped aside to let them in. Martin came to pack his things, and Emma ran into his arms, begging him to come home. He gently told her no, and offered to spend the day with her instead. I begged him to talk, to try to save our marriage, but when he asked if I was in love with Logan, I couldn't say no, and that silence was my answer. He reminded me of all my choices, flirty comments, secret lunches, lies, and answering Logan's call instead of being honest the night before. He said Emma needed parents who respected each other, not a mother who lied and cheated, and told me his lawyer would contact me about custody. 3 months later, a judge gave Martin primary custody and me supervised visits, calling out my pattern of deception. Logan vanished as soon as things got serious, while Martin stayed calm, never poisoning Emma against me, just letting the facts speak. Outside the courthouse, Emma waved at me, and Martin looked at me with quiet sadness, not hate. I had once joked I'd date his boss if I was single. In the end, he simply made me single.